Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mr. Sanchez coming at you with another lesson for geometry. We're gonna do lesson 15-1 kites. Okay. Our learning target for today is just to develop properties of a kite. And normally, we would develop the properties, but I'm just gonna give them all to you today. Um, we went over these properties in class, so it shouldn't be a big deal that we're just going over them. And that's first things first. We got to go over what a kite is. So a kite is a quadrilateral with exactly two distinct pairs of congruent consecutive sides. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the sides that are congruent in the kite have to be consecutive. And so you're probably wondering what that means. Consecutive means back to back. So when it comes to this example right here, if this side is congruent here, if the side is going to be congruent to this, it either has to be this side or this side. It cannot be the opposite side. Okay. And seeing as just looking at the size of the shape, this is going to be the side that's congruent, and then the other two sides that are congruent also have to be consecutive, right? So this is going to be congruent to this side, right? And it's important that you have two pairs of congruent sides because that's part of the definition. Oops, and let me just fix this. This should say distinct with a CT, right? So we have exactly two distinct pairs. So you have to have two, and then they have to be congruent consecutive sides, which means you have to go back to back. So that's basically what a kite is. Here are examples of not kites. Let's look at a square, for example, and I'll tell you why a square is not a kite. So let's look at the square. When we look at a square, all of these are congruent, right? They're all the same sides, and although they are consecutive, they're not two pairs. It only has one pair. It has one quadruple, or like it has all the sides are the same size, and so there's no two distinct pairs. There's only one group of congruent sides. So a square is not it. Another parallelogram, another quadrilateral people might consider would be a parallelogram, and some people might be like, well, it looks almost identical to a kite. Why is a parallelogram not congruent? Not a kite. So a parallelogram is not a kite because the congruent sides are not consecutive. So these are on the opposite sides. They have to be next to each other in order for them to be a kite. So this is not a kite. Okay. Um, and that's basically the basic general definition of that's the definition of kite. A kite is a quadrilateral with exactly two distinct pairs. So two distinct pairs of congruent consecutive triangles, and it's a quadrilateral, so it has to have four sides. All right, next up, we're gonna go over the properties of a kite, and let's see. All right, so there's six key properties. So there are exactly two pairs of consecutive sides that are congruent. So that's this pair right here, this pair right here. That's one pair, and then the other pair is right here. So far we know that much, right? All right. So then it says one diagonal divides a kite into two congruent triangles. So when talking about the diagonals, we're actually talking about um this, right? And and it's usually the long diagonal that's going to give us the two congruent triangles. How do we know they're congruent triangles? Well, first let me erase this. We have two congruent triangles here, and some of you guys might be wondering why. Well, we have here side, 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 right? And since they share the side, we can say this. This is the third side. So they're congruent by side, side, side. And the other triangle is right here, right? So one of the diagonals does that. And they're congruent by side, side, side. And it says the diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. So what does that mean? That's number 3 is the diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. Well, there are 2 diagonals in every kite, and so you get the other diagonal by doing this, by connecting these 2 points, vertices. And basically, we're saying that this here is that these 2 lines form 90 degrees. All right. And that's the 3rd property of a kite. The 4th property of a kite says, did I copy this in the wrong order? Let me double check. No, I didn't. Okay. The other diagonal of a kite divide the kite into 2 isosceles triangles. So when we talk about this, when we talk about property number 4, the other diagonal divides the kite into 2 isosceles triangles, whereas the first diagonal we went over. Oops. So the first diagonal we spoke of was this one, and that creates 2 congruent triangles. The second diagonal, this one, the vertical one, creates 2 isosceles triangles. Okay, and if you're wondering what an isosceles triangle is, that's just a triangle in which 2 sides are congruent. So you see how 2 sides are congruent? And that bottom side is the base. Okay. The 5th property is 1 pair of opposite angles are congruent angles. So by the rule of corresponding parts of congruent triangles and the fact that these are congruent, right? So let me see. Oops, erase the whole thing. So let's see. No, we can erase this. So we know that this line cuts this triangle in half. These 2 triangles are congruent, right? We know these 2 are congruent. So what we're saying is when it comes down to one of the pair of opposite angles are congruent, we're actually talking about this pair right here. This pair is going to be congruent to this pair. And I guess I'll use blue for this. So it's going to be congruent. Yeah, they're congruent and they're opposite of each other. And then it says 1 pair of opposite, and so we did that one. So this one's crossed off. And then 1 diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. All right, so it's just a pair of opposite angles. So basically what we're saying in this one is that no matter which diagonal you're looking at, either this one or this one, that the angle that are being bisect are always going to be cut in half. So that's what we're saying. They're cut in half. So what that means, in other words, what that means is that and let's use a different color. Let's use pink. So let's use pink. All right, so what we're saying is this angle is going to be congruent to this angle because they're divided in half perfectly. And this angle is going to be congruent to this angle. And then same thing over here. And yeah, and that's basically it. Those are the 6 properties of a kite. Hopefully that doesn't confuse you too much. Right? And that's the last one. And that's all you need to know about kites. All right, guys? We have problems in class that we're gonna go over that involve kites. But these are the basics of a kite, okay? Have a great day. Bye-bye.